Oh. Good morning, Bucknutters. You got a sneak peek of the Dean there. It is Thursday, May the 8th, 2025. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. Okay, you guys, some guys in the chat are cracking me up. I got to stay cool here. This podcast covers the national champions. Still basking, if you were wondering, if you had any concerns. Great show for you today. Going to have the Dean on for sure, Bill Kurelic, and we're going to attempt to have on the Grand Poobah himself, Mark Porter. As you guys know, Mark is on the road this month every day. If you saw his itinerary, it would wig you out a little bit. It's overwhelming. It's small type. It's basically every high school in the state. But it means he's kind of got some travel issues. So we're not sure if we're going to get him hooked up here. We are definitely going to get the Dean coming in. We're going to talk about Favor Aki. They saw him in person yesterday at camp. And big commitment coming on Monday, possibly for the Buckeyes. We will get into that as well. But first, I got to tell you guys about Brunt Workwear and Brunt Boots. First of all, let's talk about advertising. If you're going to market something, send this to the advertisers. Look at that hat they sent me. That thing's fire. You can tell already I've been wearing it. I don't go full lacrosse guy thing where I bend it like that, but I do get a little corner. Look at that hat. You know what I love about this hat? No one else has it. I love an original baseball cap. But this is Brunt Workwear, and what they do is make these. Look at that thing, man. Now, that's a good-looking boot right there. You can tell from a working man, hard-working man, getting my hands dirty. I wear these boots now. They are impressive. The founder of Brunt Workwear, Eric Girard, grew up blue-collar and started Brunt after his friends in the trades encouraged him to start a workwear brand that was really built for them. That's why all Brunt products are named after the guy he grew up with, which is pretty cool. These things are very impressive. These work boots reject everything oil, sparks, all your hazards. You are in good shape and you're looking great. Again, look at this thing. I would almost wear this to go get some digits. Look at this. Come on now. It's not just a durable work boot. They've reinvented comfort for the hardest workers out there. So for a limited time, our listeners get $10 off at Brunt by using code Bucknuts at checkout. Just head to bruntworkwear.com, B-R-U-N-T, work, W-E-A-R.com, and use code Bucknuts and you're all set. After you purchase, I'm going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Okay. It looks like we're going to work with a two-man show here today because the Poobah is where in the world is Mark Porter? Nobody really knows. But Bill, you managed to wrangle the Poobah down yesterday, and we're in the same spot he was. You were at one of these camps at Delaware Hayes High School, northern suburbs of Columbus, I think it's fair to say, the northern reaches, and got to see a gentleman we all know by the name of Favor Aki. So we've talked about him a lot, Bill. Seen him in games and stuff. You got a chance to see him up close and in person yesterday. How big is he? How fast is he? How much does he like Ohio State? Educate us on the arguably the top running back prospect in the state of Ohio.
Well, yeah, Mark and I were both at the Delaware Hayes Showcase yesterday, and Favor Aki really looks the part. He, as I put on the thread to that showcase, he passes the look test pretty well. You know, he's not an offensive lineman, so he's not one of those first guy off the bus guys, but he looks the part. And he performed well. You know, obviously it's a showcase. They're doing drills and not going playing a game, so it's a little bit harder to tell. But you know, he ran the 40-yard dash. He did running back drills, and he also did linebacker drills for that matter, because he is going to play both for Delaware Hayes this season, linebacker and running back. He's been getting recruited though as a running back, and it was interesting. There were coaches from a lot of schools there, you know, Pitt, Purdue, Indiana, etc. You know, some of and even smaller schools down, you know, Worcester and that type of thing, all talking some to Favor But it's still a 3-team battle. Three teams in the race. As Favor and I talked about afterwards, it's Ohio State, it's Miami, and it's USC. And he has kind of moved back his announcement time, and he moved it back a little bit again. I posted a video interview with Favor on our site yesterday evening, and he had been at one point talking about May, and then a little bit later, June. Yesterday, he said that he wants to make his announcement sometime between July 1 and July 4. I still think as long as the Buckeyes are all in, that's probably where he goes. That he talks about Ohio State. He went to, there's an old saying in recruiting, as you know, Dan, follow the visits. Well, he visited Ohio State 4 times this spring. Now, granted, it is Ohio State as opposed to traveling out to the West Coast to USC or all the way down to the bottom regions of Florida and Miami. But still, 4 spring visits is a lot of visits. I don't know of anybody else, any other recruit to visit Ohio State 4 times this spring alone. So, again, we talked about it a lot. And by the way, if you want to see Favor in action from the showcase yesterday, right before this podcast, I put clips that I took of Favor Aki in action at that Delaware Hayes showcase on Wednesday. And by the way, you never know. Don't give up on the Grand Poobah. He may get service back as he drives along. What I certainly hope happens is he drives safely along as he's looking at talking to us and looking off the road. It's always like fingers crossed.
I have a theory on this, Bill. I used to get worried when I look in the other cars and someone was looking in their phone. But now it's to the point where every time you look in the car, someone's looking at their phone. So I think people have just developed the skills. I don't know what to say about that, Bill. I'm going to support the Poobah multitasking because it's good for the show. But yes, he's willing to perform at dangerous levels for us. Just in general, Bill, Favor Aki, you've seen them take Ohio running backs many times. Do you feel he's of that caliber and would have a chance to have a strong career at Ohio State?
Oh, yeah. He can play talent-wise at Ohio State. And I think at the beginning, Dan, you asked me about, the size, whatever.
Right.
He is listed on our site on 247, but as 6 foot, 190 pounds. And I would say that's pretty legit from looking at him yesterday. I would say that's legitimate size for him right now. In fact, I think I heard one of the recruiters ask him, how big are you right now, Favor? And I believe his answer was 6 foot, about 188.
Okay.
Right now. So I think that's pretty legit.
We can round up. You didn't have your stopwatch on him when he was running the 40, did you?
No, I was taping him. I got that clip on our site. I was taping him. And I will say, whatever time it was, it got pretty. It was actually we've had rain. We've had monsoons here in Columbus forever. My backyard looks like a swamp. But actually yesterday, the sun came out. It was a sunny day. It was like 72 degrees or something like that. I looked at my watch. And I think I saw 71 or something. And the sun was out. And they put Favor through a workout. I mean, he was going from one drill to the other. And interestingly, they did the 40 at the very end. And he was pretty, not just him, but a lot of guys. But they put him through a nice workout. And he was, by that time, a little bit tired, to say the least. So whatever time that was, it may not have been the most legitimate thing because he was getting done with it was an hour. They started at 11:45 and ended at 1:30. So it was almost an hour workout straight, pretty much straight for Favor. So running the 40 at that point probably, and that's why I didn't really worry about it too much, probably wasn't the most realistic time for him.
Also, the 40 is something we could do a whole show on the 40-yard dash and the 38-yard dash that some teams run, Although I did see a thing on Bo Jackson recently where he claims he ran a 4.13 timed digitally at Auburn. That's flying. Basically, if you have someone legitimately clocking the 40 and they run under 4.4, you'll hear me say this all the time, you're borderline 4x100 U.S. Olympic team speed. So when you see someone say they run a 4.4, you'll know. If you've seen him play football before, you will have known. So those numbers get thrown around a little much. But let's move on here as I look and see the Fuba is not coming. So we will get over that. But, oh, yeah, see, D knows. Real track people know this, and they are not quick to tell you their real 40 time. The best football team that I covered when I was a youth, cutting my teeth in the DC area, the coach would not, you do your football previews, you call 50 coaches, you say, oh, who's returning? What does he run? He would not tell us the 40 times because he said, we do it accurately, and it's going to make it sound like we have a slow team, and they did not. So if you ever want to have a long discussion about a real track person whose kid can really run, they know this. All right, Bill, I'm not going to say it's a pipeline, but Ohio State is investing in some quality real estate. They're looking at possibly building a pipeline to Bergen Catholic in Oradell, New Jersey. Now, that would be expensive. You're going to have to go right through the New York City suburbs. Those aren't cheap for drilling. But Ohio State is developing quite a little thread here. We've already got Taiwan Malone and Quincy Porter from Bergen Catholic in Oradell, New Jersey. For those who don't know, elite high school football. Is it the best program in the state? It would be in the mix if you were to have a discussion. They've got another player there who is very good and is very interested in Ohio State. There's a kind of a Jersey feel to the Buckeyes coming these days, which is good. You need to tell us about Jordan Thomas, and could he be a Buckeye and when?
Well, he did. I talked to him on Sunday evening, and I had a story on our site. It was either right after that, I think I put it on, or it might have been first thing Monday morning. But in any event, he told me when I talked to him on Sunday night that he was going to make his commitment date announcement this week. And then he said somewhere within about 2 weeks, he will then make his commitment. Lo and behold, on Wednesday, I believe it was Tuesday, might have been Tuesday, but I believe it was Wednesday, he announced his commitment date, and that will be on Monday, May 12th. He will announce his commitment. I think that from talking to him, I got a good vibe on Ohio State on Sunday. So when I checked with some different sources, I checked on the Ohio State side, and there's some confidence there. Not a done deal type confidence, but there's confidence there. I checked on, and I've always felt like Notre Dame was probably the biggest challenger, and I checked my sources, my Notre Dame sources. That confidence doesn't seem to be there right now. Now, that doesn't mean they've thrown in the towel. I'm just saying that in talking to sources at the different schools, I feel the confidence level is highest at Ohio State right now. We will see for sure on Monday when he announces his decision, but that's how things are right now. But as we know, in this day in the NIL era, things can change at the last minute. Let's just put it that way. But right now, I think confidence-wise, Ohio State is where the most is.
We haven't talked a lot about Jordan Thomas, Bill. Tell everyone about him, what you know of him as a football player, size, speed, if he reminds you of someone.
Yeah, he is. I think all you need to say really right now is that he's at the very top of the food chain as far as Ohio State remaining cornerback targets. He's a fairly long corner. He's about 6'1", 175, 180 pounds. Tremendous athlete. He is good enough to play safety in college too. In fact, he's good enough to play on offense in college if that would be the thing. But he is being recruited by Ohio State as a corner. Tim Walton really has set him as a premier target. And Ohio State already has a commitment from Jacob Weatherspoon. Jacob Weatherspoon is more of an inside corner type guy, and he is really good, Weatherspoon. I think he's tremendous. Mm-hmm. If you can get Jordan Thomas to go with Jacob Weatherspoon, you've got a great cornerback duo. And that would follow Devin Sanchez. So that would be a great cornerback trio. And I think it's trending towards that happening. But you guys got, Jordan Thomas is a guy that Ohio State has talked about. Matt Patricia and Tim Walton went to see him yesterday, and Matt Patricia has talked with Jordan Thomas about his ability to play outside corner and guard the other team's top wide receiver, his ability to play inside corner, nickel corner, and even his ability to play as a star safety. So they think he can play any of those positions, but I think he is more of an outside corner, but just because he's so good in coverage.
Mika, I'm going to get to your question in just a sec here. I'm going to read an ad here, and then we're going to get to all your questions. If you have questions for the dean, like this one from Brian Henthorn, let's have him up here because we're going to go through rapid fire here. You guys have the dean all to yourself. The Grand Poobah is not going to fringe. Oh, no. Look who it is.
I thought he might be back.
There we go. I can actually hear everybody too.
Just in time for me to read an ad, Mark. So just get settled and we will come to you here in just a sec. Gooder Sunglasses, one of our best sponsors. And like I've told you guys, Stylish Sunny starting at only $25 a pair. It's an old story now. Sent my kid to spring break with 2 pair, came back with 1. Dad was not rankled at all. This was not a $250 pair of Varnays that everybody has either lost or knows someone who lost. These
Dan, I'll tell you what. I'm seeing Gooders on college coaches out on the road. They must have the same problem.
Or they must be following Bucknuts. Really what's happening is people are following Mark around and trying to copy him, which is really not surprising. But now that you know this, they got plenty of choices, men, women, and children. They fit everybody. Vibrant colors, sleek styles. There's a pair of Gooders for every personality. You can wear them to active individuals that love to run, hike, bike, and coach. And their glasses. If you need a new pair, Gooder is giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping. Gooder, spelled like it sounds, GOODR.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts. 30-day money-back guarantee, 100% satisfaction, and free shipping. All right. We're going to answer questions with the dean, but given the fragility of Mark's appearance and appearances, we're going to talk about being live. Here he is, Mark Porter. Mark, what's your day been like? Would you like to talk about what you thought of Favor Aki? We've already gone to the dean on that, but you were there yesterday. Put that in context with what you've seen so far and what you've seen today, et cetera. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll start with Favor Aki because that's where Bill and I both were yesterday. And I tell you what, they had him working out as a linebacker, the first portion of that. And I really thought that he looked outstanding there, better than a lot of the linebackers I've seen on the road. And that's just to give you an idea of what an elite athlete he is. I thought he looked like he put on more weight. I think we were talking about him being around 190 pounds. I think he looks a little better than that. The shoulders and the upper body starting to come into play, and you add the weight there. They worked him like a dog. There were only 2 running backs, and he got so many reps and did so many drills that his tongue was literally hanging out the side of his mouth, and they had to give him a break. So he sold out for the people in attendance. I know a lot of the coaches are still kicking the tires and looking at players and talking to them and building relationships, but I think Ohio State could be the leader with this guy. Just talking to Bill and some of the other guys there, there's a little bit of excitement. But yeah, he checks out, like I say, he checks all the boxes. That's what I kind of look for. I liked his hands. They put him through a drill where he ran a lot of routes, and I was surprisingly how well he caught the ball. So you don't always get to see that stuff on film. I don't know if what I'm saying syncs up with what Bill's saying. It's like you put us in 2 separate rooms and said, give us your take. I wonder how much that synced up with what he saw. And I'm not really mentioning the obvious, and I don't know how much that. So I'd like to hear how Bill thought.
You just heard it. You said it. Exact same thing, basically. So it's like you're coming through in stereo. My question is this. Do you consider him the top running back prospect in the state of Ohio? And if so, how does he fall in context with other guys you've had in that spot?
Yeah, Sean Alston up at Painesville, Harvey is going to USC. Yeah, and I never really thought that, I just never got him on a great night where he looked his best. And I know his film was great, but I think I like Faber Akee more. There were other running backs in Ohio that I liked more than Faber, and trying to think of who they are off the top of my head is a little tricky. But I think there's some guys with a little more bulk that had like a little more. I mean, there's guys like Beanie Wells and Maurice Claret that have come through Ohio. There's some pretty special players here.
How would you compare him to like a Mayan Williams type as you blow the toll?
Yeah, that's basically what's going on here. They're asking me for a ticket, and I have an easy pass.
You don't want to back
Mayan
up
Williams. Yeah, definitely had more power to him there. Yeah, is that an illegal move to do? And asking for a friend?
That's impressive. I grew up on the East Coast. If you did that in New Jersey, you were going to be sopranoed right the F out of there. Excuse my language. All right.
No, I guess. Okay.
We're good. Let's go. We're going to go to some questions now. You guys, I'll address. First to Mika, Jammarcus Weiss, will he get an offer? Bill?
I don't know that I would predict yes or no right now. I think that's a camp one. He is planning to camp at Ohio State in early June, and I think it'll depend on how he does. But I do think it's a possibility. He's a really pretty solid prospect that's got a pretty darn solid offer list. I know it includes Kentucky. I think right now they could be the favorite for him, but it also includes some others like Notre Dame and Auburn, for instance. So, I think that's a possibility. It will depend on how he does at camp in early June.
It's funny. Mika asked, do we offer Jammarcus Weiss? Who camps for us June 5th? I think I have the date right. When I first read that, I said, I think I have date night. So I think they were thinking there was going to be some conflicts there, but I think we're in good shape. We are not going to really try and get ahead on June 5th just yet. That camp, I'm sure, Bill, that camp list is burgeoning. We'll get closer as we get closer. We will do that. There's a couple.
There will be a lot of top Ohio guys at that camp. I do have a list that's growing, as you said. That's a month out yet, basically. But Khalil Johnson, the offensive tackle Ohio State relatively recently offered, will be there. Anxious to see him again. But we will get to that.
So if I could talk about the road a little more, Bill brought up Khalil Johnson. He was outstanding. I compared him and I said, okay.
I'm good. When you give a name, just give us a position, maybe a high school and something else, because not all of us are Mika.
Yeah, Bill just mentioned Khalil Johnson, the offensive tackle from Cincinnati Taft that Ohio State just offered. So I did see Taft the other night. I did see him work out. And immediately I said to the people around me, he looks like Taylor Decker sophomore year. He's a clone of the Taylor Decker body, the feet, very tight end-like body, very thin, is putting on the big legs, the big butt. So I think that mimicked that. The other thing I want to say from the road is with the Lakota West, and Coach Bolden put all of his D1 athletes in one group, and there were about 12 of them. And I'm going to say that of all the showcases I've covered in Ohio, it was the single greatest position group I've ever seen. And then on top of it, and this is a compliment to the coaches there, the discipline within that group and that organization within that combine is in first place in Ohio right now. And there are some sharp coaches and some guys hustling and doing things right. When Lakota West had people finishing their drill, the next kid's hands were on the line and they were going within a half second of the other good kids coming through. It ran like a Swiss watch, but let's look for Lakota West this year to be late into the playoffs because they had more underclassmen, offensive line bodies, tight. It might be tight end you there. Every time I turn around, there's another 6'6" tight end. So hats off to Lakota West for being one of the better stops. Today, the highlight is Glenville, which I could go home after Glenville and probably feel satisfied. Yeah, Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights, St. Ignatius, Cleveland area schools, Warrensville Heights, some other places. So I'll be in that area
It's at Glenville?
At Glenville, yeah. Probably Bump Taylor Field, which is their home field.
Okay. Be careful. Some coaches went up to Glenville last year, and I was getting calls in the morning like it was a wild scene. All right, speaking of Glenville, what about Sincere Johnson down to 3 schools, Bill? What are the schools? What's your prediction?
Well, they are Ohio State, Penn State, Alabama. Absolutely no shock that those are his final 3. I've been talking about those 3 schools for a long time. The plan right now is that he's going to make official visits to all 3. In fact, I talked to him, I don't know, a week or so ago, and he said at that point, he said, I have 4 official visits set, and he did not rule out the possibility of making a decision earlier than that. But he said at that point, his plan was to take all 4 of those visits and then make his announcement. So I think right now the plan is still that he's going to take his visits. It's just down to 3 instead of 4, and the 3 were expected. I've got him crystal ball to Ohio State, and I don't switch my picks a whole lot anyhow, but I haven't switched that pick.
Mark, I know you'll probably get some more information today, but I feel like we've always kind of felt Sincere is destined to be a Buckeye. Has anything's happened or changed that would alter that expectation?
I would not go to Las Vegas and put any money betting against Sincere Johnson going down to Ohio State. With Arvell Reese down there, the national championship, there's just no reason to fight City Hall and go off the script, of Glenville. So I couldn't put my chips to the center of the table on anybody else.
Do you feel the same way about J.J. Perez? Excuse me, the large defensive tackle. We'd got to fit that guy through the pipeline. We need to do some pipeline expansion just to get him through.
Yeah, I'm not as positive about J.J. Perez. They call him J.J. up there if you want to know him personally. But yeah, that one, I don't know. I'll ask some people today and see if I can get a feel for that, and see what their level of comfort is of telling me. I'll try to pry into the Glenville brain trust and see if there's any. And I would bet that there's other kids on the radar we're going to be talking about that are younger for the next generation of Glenville.
All right, we're going to finish with this. Hunter W10, what's the word on Jordan Thomas? You are lucky. When this show is over, hit the rewind button on YouTube or go to your podcast. Bill Kurelic covered that in detail. Jersey Strong, Jersey Shore, S-U-R-E, we'll see. All right, last question. Is the offensive lineman from Miami Trace a done deal to Clemson? This would be Guthrie. I guess either one you could build. Do you think that's a done deal?
Nothing has happened since he committed to Clemson to make me change my thinking that that's where he's going to go. Now, again, it's a long way. Signing day is not till early December. That's a long way off, and a lot can happen. And gosh, especially in this day and age of the portal and NIL and everything, so a lot can happen. But asking me right now, which you are, nothing's happened so far to change my thinking that he will stay with Clemson and his commitment there.
All right. I'm going to ask what these guys are doing this weekend. But, Bill, Tyrese Halliburton, dude. What is going on with the Cavs? I'll say this. The Cavs starting lineup the other night did not inject fear into many. It looked like – I'm not even going to go there. But the fact that they almost won that game was incredible, and then they kind of got the rug pulled out from them. So, Bill, I almost sent you a text, and then I remembered I don't find that funny when someone sends me a text when something bad goes wrong with my teams. I'm the one who gets them from my friends, and then I take the high road. But it is hard to take that high road, and I can't do it. Just kind of this a job. I promised myself I won't do that. Let me tell you something. That's not a nice thing to do to somebody, especially when they know it's coming and you get like vibration or something bad happens in the game and you get that ding. You're like, this is a guy coming to twist it in my back, and I don't like it, so I won't do it. Mark, what do you got going?
Hold on. How do you feel about George Pickkins coming to Dallas?
I'll say this. I have a couple friends who are big-time Steelers fans, and they were not psyched.
Yeah, he's a freaking talent. He really is.
Steelers fans, some of them are not as high on Mike Tomlin as the national media, alarmingly so. And look, George Pickkins is a mercurial soul, as it were. But I mean, just to geek out here, you've been in here 30 minutes. You can handle 30 seconds of Cowboys chatter. They were going to pick Tedero McMillan in the draft. He got picked, and so they got George Pickkins and an offensive lineman and Tyler Booker. So I'm okay with it. Certainly, I mean, for a number 2 receiver, talent-wise, he's off the chart. So that's great. Mark, what are you going to be doing this weekend? Who do you got on the docket for tomorrow? Who you got on the docket for Monday that we'll be able to talk about on Tuesday?
I am going to break down as much film as I can for the Bucknutters this weekend. The Jameer Brown tape. Some of these guys I've been talking about. One of my favorite things to do is when we watch it on the Bucknuts podcast is to watch the facial expressions of Dan and Bill to gauge their degree of happiness with the player. So look forward to a nice reel on Tuesday of players we can watch and break down. Friday is a Cleveland area day for me. It's like Notre Dame Cathedral, Latin, Chardon University School. It's kind of the east side of Cleveland. Monday, I know I'm headed to Toledo next week, but I think Monday is also a Cleveland or Columbus day. My life gets normal next Friday. I think all the way through Thursday of next week, I'm covered with these camps. It's a true Groundhog Day where my brain is spinning with names. And boy, is it the worst feeling in the world when someone starts walking at you and they say hi and they want to shake your hand and you don't know who they are. Wow. So the fame of the Bucknuts podcast has definitely caught up to me. There's people on the road that are like, oh, coaches out there that we watch Dan and Bill every day. Hats off to all those guys for saying hi to me. I think everywhere I go, there's a secret Buckeye fan that'll be like, hey, I watch you on that podcast. So we're getting out there, guys.
Definitely appreciate that. Bill, your plans for the weekend, will you be able to handle it if the Cavs go on the road and don't get it done in Game 3?
Well, my plans for the weekend are pretty much my usual plans. Work as usual. We will have plenty of information on Bucknuts. Bucknuts does not take a day off when it comes to recruiting. So that'll be business as usual. And as far as the Cavs, the key is, who are they going to be playing on Friday? I mean, for them, is Mobley going to be back? Is Darling going to be back? Is Hunter going to be back? Like you said, they were missing 3 out of their top 6 guys. And having said that, they should have won that game. I mean, as a former longtime basketball coach, 2 things happened in that game that just cannot happen. You really shouldn't get beat on free throw blockouts.
Oh my God!
But to have it happen 2 times in the last minute that cannot happen. The second thing is, you should really be able to get the ball in bounds. But to not be able to get the ball in bounds twice in the last minute, that cannot happen. Now, I will agree that there were some missed calls on the one block out where Spider did not block out the guy that came in from behind the 3-point line and dunked it. That guy was clearly over the line before he was in there and going before he was allowed to. That was clearly a blown call. But I am not a blame the referee guy. You still got to fight through that, but that was clearly a blown call. What are you going to do? You got to, again, don't blame the referees. You guys made the mistakes. Hopefully, I still think they can win the series if they have their regular team, which is a big if right now.
I don't understand how you get all the way to the playoffs and everybody just is hurt. They were largely a healthy team almost the whole season. It's ridiculous. The reason they lost to the Celtics last year, Mitchell killed them for like 2 games and was like, yeah, I'm done. I'll take the contract. And he also fouled Neesmith on that play, Bill. If they would have called it straight, you can't do that. That the last few games in the NBA, if anyone's I wouldn't want to be in Vegas. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Vegas and watched the game. It's the most bizarre thing because people cheer for the spread, not the result. And so if you're not geared into it, it's kind of a weird thing. But very, very surprising. Who knows what's up with the Cavs? All right, some hoops talk at the end there. Over under on complaints on that 5 minutes of hoops chatter is 2.5. And we'll see what happens. Appreciate these guys stopping by. Have a good one. Nutters of Buck.